Picture this. You walk into a room full of people you have never met, and before you have said a single word, something in you tightens. Your eyes flick from face to face. Your heart picks up. You rehearse a sentence and then doubt it. We call this shyness or social anxiety or just being bad with new people, and we treat it like a small personal defect to be fixed. But that quiet alarm when you meet a stranger is not a flaw in you. It is one of the oldest pieces of machinery your mind owns, running a calculation your ancestors could not afford to get wrong. So why does a harmless stranger set off a warning that feels older than thought?
Here is the story we tell about it. If meeting new people drains you, if a room of strangers makes you want to leave, the message is that you are awkward, antisocial, broken in some small way that confident people are not. There are courses to fix it, books on how to work the room, a constant suggestion that the discomfort is a weakness you should have outgrown. And underneath it all sits the assumption that being wary of strangers is irrational because the stranger is almost certainly harmless. But there is a hole in that story, and you can see it everywhere. This wariness is not rare. Infants all over the world develop a fear of strangers at around the same age, long before anyone teaches them to. Every culture on Earth draws a line between the people it knows and the people it does not. A reaction that universal and that early is not a quirk you happen to pick up. It is standard issue. And to understand why you were handed it, you have to go back to a world where a stranger was the rarest and the most dangerous thing you could meet. For almost all of human history, you lived your whole life among people you knew. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar found that the natural size of a human group sits at around 150, the rough number of people one mind can really keep track of. Inside that band, you knew every face, every history, who owed what to whom, who could be relied on and who could not. And then, once in a long while, a face you did not know would appear at the edge of the firelight. That stranger was a genuine fork in the road. He might be a traitor, a future mate, a bringer of news from another valley. Or he might be a scout for a raiding party, a carrier of a sickness your group had no defense against, a thief, a killer. There was no way to tell from the outside. So the brain that came down to you grew a fast, automatic system for exactly this moment. A snap scan that sorts a face into us or not us in a fraction of a second, before any conscious thought arrives. Show a person an unfamiliar face and you can watch the amygdala, the brain's threat alarm, light up more strongly than it does for a familiar one. That flicker of caution you feel is that scan running. It is not deciding the stranger is bad. It is flagging that you do not yet have the information to know. And in the world it was built for, missing that flag even once could be the last mistake you ever made. But fear is only half of the machine, because the stranger was also the only way your world ever got bigger. The biologist Robert Trivers described the logic that holds human cooperation together: reciprocal altruism, the simple deal of I help you now, you help me later. That deal works beautifully with people you will see again, people whose reputation you can track. With a stranger, the whole thing is a gamble. You cannot know if they will repay a kindness or simply take it and vanish. So the same ancient system that scans for threat is also running a second, quieter question. Can this person be trusted, even a little, enough to begin? This is why meeting someone new feels like such delicate work. You are not just making conversation. Some deep part of you is reading their face, their hands, their tone, gathering evidence, deciding how much to risk. Watch a baby and you can see the raw machine before life softens it. At around 8 months old, almost everywhere on Earth, infants develop what psychologists call stranger anxiety. They cling, they cry, they bury their face from the unfamiliar adult who only wanted to smile. Nobody taught them to. They arrived already knowing that an unknown face is a question, not an answer. We are not born hating strangers, we are born careful with them, primed to study before we open, because for 10,000 generations, the ones who studied first were the ones who lived to have us. So if this system is so finely built, why does it feel like it is misfiring every single day? Because the world it was made for is gone. For your ancestors, a stranger was an event, rare enough that stopping to size each one up cost almost nothing. Now think about your morning. You step onto a train, into an office, down a busy street, and you pass more unfamiliar faces before lunch than one of your ancestors might have met in a lifetime. The ancient scanner does not know that. It still wakes up for each new face, still runs the old us or not us check, still asks the old question about trust thousands of times a day on people you will never see again and who mean you no harm at all. The machine is not broken. It is simply being asked to do in a single crowded hour what it was designed to do a handful of times in a year. Of course it gets tired. Of course it leaves you drained.
This is what social anxiety really is, underneath the embarrassment. An ancient safety system running flawlessly in a world built to overload it. The racing heart before you walk into a party, the exhaustion after a day among strangers, the pull to retreat to the few faces you truly know, none of that is a defect in your character. It is the stranger scan, designed for a small known world, firing in a vast world of strangers it was never meant to process. And the darker side of the same wiring is just as old. That instant sorting of faces into us and not us, so useful around a small fire, is the raw material that suspicion and prejudice are built from when a culture decides to feed it. The line your mind draws between the familiar and the foreign was meant to protect a band of 150. It was never meant to carry the weight of nations. When you see that, the daily discomfort stops being a private failing. The unease in a crowd, the relief of going home, the careful guard you raise with someone new, that is not weakness. It is what it feels like to run a small band mind in a world of millions, and to be told the whole time that the problem is just you.
So the next time a room full of strangers makes your chest tighten, do not be ashamed of it. Listen to it instead. That caution is a message handed down an unbroken line of people who met the unknown carefully and lived to pass the caution on. You did not invent that wariness, and you did not fail by feeling it. You inherited it, whole from a world where the face at the edge of the firelight could change everything, for better or for worse, and where reading it right was the difference between a new friend and a final mistake. It is not that you are afraid of people. It is that something in you is still standing quiet watch at the edge of the group, doing the oldest job there is. The stranger is rarely a danger now, but the watcher does not know that, and it is only trying, as it always has, to keep you safe.